We've had some news. Gambling is legal in baseball. Gambling is legal in sports in general in the United States, with the exception of a couple states, but there's been quite the push into the gambling market for sports. I think we all know about that. Great. If you want to gamble, you want to get whatever. You can do those things. But recently, we've had some very interesting situations happening with players in baseball that seem to be trending towards possible rigging of games, though allegedly, we don't know any of that stuff. That is just being inferred by the nature of the information that we've had so far. So here's what happened, okay? On July 3rd, Cleveland Guardians pitcher Luis Ortiz was placed on leave during an MLB betting investigation. Basically, what happened was there was an inordinate number of micro bets, which are, there's certain platforms, I don't think the big ones, I don't think they do these type of things, but there are some more fringe platforms that do micro bets on very specific things happening in very specific times in games. For example, first pitch being like a hit and batter or a ball, or like an exact number of runs being scored in an inning, stuff like that, okay? So there were two pitches that third-party betting integrity firm IC360 flagged from Luis Ortiz. Namely, it was just a couple of odd-looking pitches where it was nowhere close to the zone in the first pitch of an inning for a ball, which that is one of the things they can bet on. And you know, and they just saw like a higher volume of bets on those two pitches that were really bad misses, right? So that could flag something. They have probably a lot of automated system too that's doing this. Like if it misses by a certain amount, they'll go look at it and whatever. So this is part of having gambling in sports as well. A lot of these third-party watchdogs are part of the situation because at the end of the day, you need to maintain the integrity of the games, or the betting on them doesn't make any sense if everyone feels like it's rigged. Like everyone loses in that situation, okay? But then again, on Monday, Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase was also put on the same leave till the same time, August 31st, for the same kind of situations. Though they have not mentioned any pitches being flagged or whatever. With Ortiz, we knew that there were no pitches disclosed on what it was. They said, even though they share a locker room and they know each other, and I believe they are friends as anecdotes, but I don't know that for sure. They're not related in any like material way, meaning like it's not like they've got text messages connecting them or something. Like there's collusion or a conspiracy. They've been clear like that isn't part of this. Also, there's nobody else being looked at for the Guardians. So if Guardians fans, I mean, you can think it's good news. This is it so far. So what happened when this speculation happened? This is a big deal for a lot of reasons we're gonna get into in a moment, but like, just like with Ortiz, the internet went crazy, right? And Clase, frankly, is a much bigger deal to a lot of fans because of how good he is and for what he was going to mean on the trade market, which he's no longer going to mean that. There's an investigation going on, so he ain't going to be traded and they're not going to get any prospects back. We'll talk about that in a moment. The uncertainty about this, like what, got the internet riled up, and there was people give and takes. And what they did was they ran with the same type of things that Ortiz was doing. The first pitches of innings, was there any weird trends happening with Clase that could be what they were looking at? A lot of people I didn't know they were having these takes, but a couple I did know and that do good work, so we're going to reference one of them. This is Foolish Baseball. Foolish Baseball is a great YouTube channel. It's analytically based. It does great work. A lot of fun. He does a great job. You might have seen Baseball Bits on YouTube, and he said the following. Manuel Clase has come to the game at the beginning of the ninth inning 40 times this season. Here's the StatCast waste percent, pitches that aren't close to the zone. And I believe it's the same as competitive location. It's like outside of 18 inches. Outside of 18 inches from the center of the zone is considered a waste, meaning nobody swings at him with the exception of like 2020 Javier Baez, okay? He posted this, he said, first pitch inning is 17.5%, every other pitch is 5.2%. Couple caveats here. I don't know if every other pitch is like every other count, because 0-0 is what we're looking at. That is one of the things you can bet on. I don't think you can bet on any other counts. I actually don't know what other options there are, but we're just going with what Ortiz does. And he said, in the top of the ninth, every pitch, other pitch is 5.2 and 7.5. That's a big difference. Like that's a big difference. In the comments later, they said, what was it last year? And it was 5% in both. So that is a weird trend thing. However, it was put out there that it is very unlikely that the first pitch at the bottom of the ninth or the top of the ninth inning in general, is not available for these type of bets. So this might not even apply, but still an interesting thread to pull on. And then from here, a bunch of people were posting compilations of all the pitches and how bad they were misses. There were some really bad misses in there, but he tends to kind of every once in a while just throw a really bad. We all do, right? So you can't just watch a compilation of a bunch of pitches that are nowhere close and just assume that he's doing it on purpose. That's not enough evidence. But there's been a lot of speculation. Of course, the internet's running with it, and everything's a conspiracy these days. So I actually went and looked at just 0-0 pitches just in general, because he has pitched in the 8th inning. I believe he's pitched in the 7th once, to see, like, are you weird on 0-0 pitches? So I tried to expand on this research that Bailey was doing, and I found some things that are curious. Do I inevitably think they mean much? I don't know, but you guys tell me. Okay, let's talk a little bit of the stuff I found, all right? His 0-0 pitches have the lowest competitive location, meaning the highest percentage of whiff. Competitive location meaning he had the most waste pitches 0-0 of any count outside of 1-1, and it's almost exactly the same. But in general, he has really good competitive location percentages, like top of the league. Like he's around the plate. He doesn't miss big a lot. That's important, okay? So I'm gonna show you real quick, again, with the whiteboard, what we're working with here. Okay, so this is what competitive location means for all of you that don't know. Say that's the center of the zone. Then there is a circle. That is terrible, but you get it. And this is supposed to be 18 inches. So everything outside of this, like up here and up here and up here, these are considered not competitive or waste pitches. Comp block percent means how many of the pitches are in this circle. What percentage of your total pitches? Elite would be 90%, or 85 to 90% is elite, top elite. He is total 87, so he is well above average. Average is like 83. So he is well above average. Even with all this stuff, he has good control. Like, this is a good example of control and how important it is. So let's get into more of the stats. So, like I said, his average is 87%. He is 84% 0-0. That's weird. That's weird. 0-0 is usually one of the higher ones if you are a command guy, okay? His 0-0 strike rate, first pitch strikes, which are one of the most important statistics for a pitcher, is 60.3%. Last year, it was 66.4%. Now, he had one of the most amazing reliever years ever, and 66% of his first pitch strikes is pretty high. The league average is about 62 or 3. He's 3% below average. But what's fishy about that is 0-0 is also his lowest strike percent at all. Of all counts, every single count that exists, that is the one he throws the least amount of strikes in. That's interesting. So only that count is at well below average. Everyone else is above average. So I thought that was odd. Like, why is that? And then he also, he's got a lower paint. Okay, so paint is, if the ball is here and splits the edge of the zone, that is a 0. Basically, it's how far away from the edge of the zone is the ball on average, distance-wise, in a straight line. Last year, he was 0.6, which is a great paint. That means regularly the ball is like in the zone. This year's -6. So last year was +3. So this is last year, but this is this year. It's on average over half of an inch outside of the zone. So he basically flipped it a full inch on average out of the strike zone as his average pitch, but his competitive location is 87%. So it's like, why then, when you miss, are those misses so bad? They're missing by so much that they're driving these averages way down. That seems weird and fishy, but doesn't prove anything. This is a very specific trend that you would only find if you were looking specifically for it. So I can get recency bias. I don't think this proves anything, but this is where I would look. And if I were doing a statistical analysis, or if we were working on something, I was talking about pitching, I'd ask him, like, what's up with first pitches? What's going on with that? Why are we struggling with that? That would be an awesome conversation to have, but it just so happens that he's getting investigated. So, and this is important for a lot of reasons. This whole situation is important for a lot of reasons. One, now we're talking about gambling again, and everyone doesn't want to talk about gambling, especially the league. The league doesn't want to talk about gambling anymore. They don't want black eyes about gambling, or they just reinstated Pete Rose and the Black Sox, and now we have it's just like really poor timing. That is a big consequence of how this could happen, is that we don't want people to not feel good about gambling because we want them to use it. But the second big one is he was a huge trade piece, and the Guardians are out of it. And they're very rarely out of it, and they want more players. In a market that needs back-end guys, this guy was the guy, and they needed some more people. And so now they're not going to get those guys. They're looking elsewhere to trade, but the Guardians could have potentially shipped this guy for his maximum value because he's controllable, he's young, he's elite, and he's cheap comparatively. He's on a cheap contract. So that sucks, and I feel bad for Guardians fans, and that's why this messes this whole thing up. There's one last little piece here that I want to point out, and it's about first pitch strikes and pitching philosophy. The number one thing we know, we're told as pitchers, when we come to the major leagues is you can't walk people, and you don't walk people by getting ahead. First pitch strikes, throwing the first pitch as a strike in the game is the most important thing you have to be able to do. Every pitcher needs to do it. It is still old school thinking, but it's been backed up by the data, the analytics. It's like one of the few things that the traditional people and analytics people all say, first pitch strikes are the most valuable, like they just are. Like getting ahead is the most valuable thing. He's very good at throwing strikes, talking to Emmanuel Clase. So why is the first pitch strike the one you're struggling with the most when that is the most important one? What is going on? He's only walking 6% of his batters. The league average is almost 9, and he's walking 6. Like, he doesn't walk people either. So he's not walking people, but he's just not throwing first pitch strikes. The year after, he was elite at throwing first pitch strikes. That raises a question mark that I don't know how to answer, and I think that the only way we're going to find this answer is through this investigation. It could be unrelated. Let me be very clear here. First pitch strikes fluctuate. They do. I had them fluctuate pretty wildly sometimes, but I also was just horrible a couple years. Like, I was so bad. I was bad across the board. He's good at everything except for this. That's why that's interesting. He's so good at everything else. Why is there no focus on rule number one? That's rule number one. And it seems like it's not a point of focus. Why is there a lack of focus on that? So, in conclusion, we can speculate all day. I can talk about, oh, this could happen, this could happen. We're not going to know. And I'm not going to assume he did anything wrong. This could just be an extrapolation on, oh, those things look fishy in a similar way, let's look into it. It could not be anything. Or there could be some extenuating circumstance or some other, maybe there is a text message or something somewhere that is incriminating in a different way. Maybe it's completely unrelated to first pitches. Maybe all those things can be true and is just as likely as not. That is what it is. But what I try to do as if I saw that there was a struggle happening first pitch or whatever, these are the same questions I was asked. It just so happens that there is this investigation happening and it was related to first pitches. Do we really need this black eye to be related to gambling? Because there's already so much uncertainty with TV right now and TV contracts for the league. Gambling seems to be maybe a windfall for a lot of the money that's moving away from this cord cutting and the streaming and how these things are going to work. There is going to be a cut into the way that money works. And gambling was, I think, one of the big ways that they're feeling more comfortable about that. But is that worth undermining the integrity of the game or giving the impression of the undermining the integrity game to bolster the income? Because at the end of the day, if the integrity gets lost, then even the people who bet don't trust that the system's being done fairly, so they don't want to bet anymore. So you kind of lose on both ends. And the question we got to ask now, is that worth it? Is that trade-off worth it? I just don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I would love to know what your guys' takes are, especially in the comments, but it'll be a story that we will be watching closely as we move forward.